Call this regular meeting of council for Wednesday, May 26, 2021 to order. Mayor and council would like to acknowledge that we're within the traditional territory of the Secwepemc Nation. Before I ask for an adoption of the agenda, CAO Daly, are there any late items?
No, Madam Mayor.
I believe there's a late item under the Chief Financial Officer.
Oh, my apologies, the loan authorization bylaw was a late item.
Yes. And we have an in-camera meeting as per section 90.2B of the Community Charter. Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda with those additions?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, Councillor Rivet, Councillor McArivy, any discussion? Councillor Park.
The late items we were on the CFO report?
Yes. I believe you got a copy of that?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes of the special meeting of council dated May 6th. Remember, that was the special meeting to adopt the tax rate bylaw with no increase. Could I have a motion to approve those minutes? So moved. Okay. One moved and the other second. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Minutes of the regular meeting of council dated May 12th, 2021. Could I have a motion to adopt those minutes? So moved. Second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion, errors, omissions? All in favor? Carried. We have no delegations. Mr. Daly, were there any questions on the village website?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So that takes us to correspondence for action. None. Recreation sites and trails. Correspondence for information. What we heard report. So this is the results of their survey and the workshops they did. Some interesting reading there. Receive for information, please. Reading file. May 7th to May 20th. There's how many? 10 items on the list, and the majority of those are interior health notices. If anyone wants to read those, they can ask at the front counter. Administrative reports. CAO none. Financial officer. That was the late item. So at the January 27th, 2021 meeting, council approved the first, second, and third readings of loan authorization bylaw number 571, 2021, and adopted on May 10th, 2021. Part of the loan process is to have a resolution from council that approves borrowing from Municipal Finance Authority. This resolution is part of the application process and must be submitted to the Thompson-Nicola Regional District no later than June 7th, 2021. There is a recommendation there. Would someone care to move the recommendation?
I'll make a motion that council approve borrowing from the Municipal Finance Authority of British Columbia as part of the 2021 fall borrowing session up to $1,200,000 as authorized through the Village of Clinton bylaw number 517-2021 Public Works Building Loan Authorization Bylaw, and that the Thompson-Nicola Regional District be requested to consent to our borrowing over a 30-year term and include the borrowing in a security issuing bylaw.
Seconder.
I'll second it.
Councillor Rivet. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor? carried. CDC, no report. Public Works, no report. Fire Department, April report. Councillor Park, would you like to take that?
So, as I mentioned last time, I was at a meeting earlier they actually have a list of all the, I think there's seven calls they had during the time, the last time they reported. And of course, that was during our burning season. You see the fire calls there, the grass fires, and et cetera, et cetera. And then you'll notice a long list of names on there, which is a good sign. I did notice another new face there for trainees, and there's been a lot of training and et cetera, so which is a good thing. But just receive for information.
Thank you. And do you know if their election results will be forthcoming?
Yeah, I think you asked me last time, sorry, but I don't know. They obviously did not have passed post them in yet. There was a couple changes, but none in the chief or deputy chief area. It was in the secretary, et cetera, so the finance part.
Okay.
But,
Traditionally, we have had those names come to council for approval.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe, if I may, Mayor, direction to staff to follow up with the chief and make sure we get those.
Sounds good. Animal control report, none. Committee reports, none. Okay. CAO report, bylaw number 573, 2021 zoning amendment bylaw. And at this point, I will recuse myself as I am a co-owner in a property in the commercial zone that this pertains to. So Councillor Park, if you could take over this portion of the meeting, please.
Okay. Okay, so as we know, April 28th, regular meeting, we give the first two readings of zoning amendment bylaw number 573-2021. And we all know the background that we had waived the public hearing and under section 464(2) of the Local Government Act. We have received one letter and it's attached from Mr. Pappas, and like I said, we're still in the second reading, so I would just like to open this up for any discussion before I ask for a motion.
Well, having read Mr. Pappas's letter, his concerns, like he kind of jumps all over the place here, but from what we understand, the people have already looked into insurance and there's no problem there. There's been a business on that site prior to Mr. Pappas buying the property. So unfortunately, sometimes when you buy a residential property close to a commercial property, you can't always gauge that who's ever in there at that time is going to be there forever and ever and ever. And as I said before, I think any kind of new business in Clinton is wonderful. It's not conflicting with any other businesses we've got here. Microbreweries are all over the place. So, like I said, I've read his letter. I acknowledge that I've read it, but I don't really think there's going to be any concerns. And as far as the potential explosions, we've got gas stations in town here, so, which I think would be a lot worse than that. So that's just my 2 cents worth.
And if it was a bakery, there's the potential of gas blowing up, whatever. I see this as a positive move. It's timely. It's with the times, like you say, that these are cropping up everywhere. I too acknowledge that I read Mr. Pappas's letter, and I think we followed everything that we, in lieu of having a public meeting. It's gotten out there, and we've only received the one letter back. So.
And I've read the letter myself too, and I think that this is a good thing for Clinton. We need to have some small business, and having a little distillery I think would be good. Bring in with the tourist and just add more spark to our town. Forgive the pun. Didn't mean it that way.
I think I read what you're saying as well about new business, et cetera. Obviously, I did mention that we might have some issues regarding this because just for perception-wise, it is a marriage property, et cetera, et cetera. My only question would be to CEO Daly, was any of the questions or in his letter, did you, as far as your point of view, from the village's point of view, was there any concerns with any of these questions?
No, I think I would echo what Councillor Rivet already pointed out, is the fact that there's gas stations in town that are probably of greater potential for hazards than a micro distillery, and they're obviously going through a lot of regulatory steps themselves. It's going to be probably over a year before they actually have product marketable.
Right.
They still have to go through, it's kind of I guess like a cart and horse kind of situation they're in, because they have to have property before they can start dealing with liquor control about licensing and other things like that. But they also need to ensure that they have those assurances in place in order to put forward the investment into the property, right? So it's not like we just give them approval for the zoning amendment and then they just get to go free form on whatever they want. They've got a lot of other regulatory steps they have to go through.
Any more discussion? Anybody care to make a recommendation?
Do we do it by the third reading first?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll make a recommendation that council give the third reading for the adoption of the zoning bylaw, zoning amendment bylaw number 573, 2021.
Second it?
Any other discussion? All in favor? Carried. Do I have anybody to make a motion for adoption?
Excuse me, I move that council give the final adoption zoning amendment bylaw number 573, 2021.
Seconder? Mr. McWherley. Any more discussion on the final adoption? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Gillette.
Do we need
Mayor?
Yes, we better let her back in. Watch the cord.
Turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Bylaw number 574, 2021, noise control bylaw. As you can see from the report, our previous bylaw was a little outdated, from 1983. There have been a few changes since then. So staff have come up with a modernized version of the noise bylaw. I'm sure you've all read it. So we can take this to third reading tonight?
Third reading, yes.
Okay. Would you like them individually?
Yes, please.
Would someone like to move first reading of the noise control bylaw?
I'll make the motion that council give the first reading of the noise control bylaw number 574, 2021.
Second it?
Discussion? Councillor Park.
Okay, so reading through the bylaw, there's a few things that, whether I think it's a contradiction in how it's written, and also the other is a two-part thing, and the other is actually in the offenses and penalties section. So the first is in the permitted noises and sounds, and this is the 5.2 version, which says no person may keep an animal or bird which by its calls cries, barks, or other noises disturbs the quiet, peace, rest, enjoyment, comfort, or convenience, or comfort of the neighborhood, or person in the vicinity. So, how I'm reading that, sounds like if your dog barks or your bird chirps, it's prohibited. But flip over to the next page, and then you have on objectionable noises and sounds. This is the way I think it should be worded. The way it is here is any calls, cries, barks, other noises made by an animal which are audible outside the premises or parcel where the animal is kept between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. or the sound made by any animal or bird persistently is the key to me.
Yeah.
At any time of day. So that's where I see the contradiction. So you're saying it's prohibited to have any sounds, the way I'm reading it, and then the next one says, it actually gives a guideline where it says a time and persistently, which to me is the actual key point there,
Yep.
which I think is what should be in there. So does anybody, is that something that we should be concerned about how it's worded on the prohibited noises and sounds? That's my one question. First question.
Mr. Daly, would you like to address that?
Just trying to read through it quickly.
What we can do is take it as far as second reading tonight and then make any changes and bring it back for third
Right.
and final.
Okay. And while I'm on the,
Let's give them a minute to read.
okay, sorry.
No, you can go on to the next question too,
Okay.
that's fine.
Oh, so the next question, of course, is in your offenses and penalties. Now, this is a little over the top, I think. I understand it's a ceiling, but do you really need to have that ceiling in there where we're going to have not more than $10,000 up
So
to?
that, the wording for that section comes right out of the Offense Act.
Right.
So that's why we take it from there, and
Yeah.
it's because, like we've talked here before about, one of the reasons this came up is because of us doing our new ticketing bylaw, our bylaw enforcement officer. So that section of the Offense Act allows us to do what's called a law enforcement prosecution or an injunction proceeding. So I know, like, if we're just talking like somebody's building a deck at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, that's one thing. But this applies to, all properties within Clinton. So if you're thinking down the road, if you have a commercial property or an industrial property that's flouting this persistently, and you've gone through those measures of ticketing and letters and motions of council, and it continues to not see results, then you can go to that law enforcement injunctive measure, and the cost of those are not cheap, so you want to recover as much cost as possible.
Right.
So a $10,000 penalty I know seems extreme when you're talking a barking dog or a stereo, but if you're talking an industrial application where it's become a 3-year long issue that you've dragged through every level of enforcement and level of court, then it's not so extreme at that point.
Right. And the imprisonment for not more than 6 months?
Yep, same thing. It's all from the Offense Act is sort of where we, so we
Okay,
don't,
well, I appreciate
when we write by, we try not to sort of reinvent the definition. We pay attention like the Interpretation Act and the Offense Act and just mirror them so it doesn't get convoluted when you take them to court and start arguing before a judge. Right?
Then with that explanation, that clears it up for me, Mayor. Just the first issue.
one,
Mr. Daly, have you had a chance to read those? 5.2 and 6.1, I believe it was?
Yeah.
But I guess in the same, sorry, Mayor, to just jump in there, I just had the thought of, actually, they all have hours and on the second, the objectionable noises and sounds, the other one too, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there's a few, not just the animal, the 5.2, but the 5.3 as well, I believe.
Yeah, they've all specified 10
Yeah.
p.m. to between
Yeah,
10
which
p.m.
are
and 7
prohibited,
a.m.
and then the one that actually given you outlines for.
Yeah, so we need to add times into the prohibited noises and sounds.
But the topic is noises and sounds.
Mhm.
So that's what it's covering. And the next one, it's covering the time period.
Well, one says prohibited and one says objectionable. So
That
prohibited,
could
prohibited
be
means-
changed, I
yeah.
agree.
So prohibited means they're not allowed,
Right.
in my thinking, and objectional means.
During those times.
We object to them.
But they state, so that's where I,
And just out of curiosity too, should it not have somewhere in there too about like the, I just lost the word that I wanted to use. Like being excessive, because you know, like the way it's reading right now, it means, like I'm reading it as no noise whatsoever type thing.
On
So having that wording just a little bit better on that maybe on.
Why when you get down into the exemptions, that's where we try to identify a few things under the exemptions, and I'm trying to consider why there's prohibited
I
and
think that's just a little bit
Yeah.
misleading on some of that too.
But one that I know is common on this one is dogs barking. So it's one thing to say, you know, I'm sorry, my dog was barking at 10 o'clock, so I let him in, but he was only out there for like 2 minutes. To the ones that got them chained in the
Excessive.
backyard that continues all night long.
For hours
Yeah.
on end, so
Yeah.
on, 'cause I think
Yeah.
that's really important on that aspect
Yeah.
of it, especially when we are also looking at possibly allowing that 4-H bylaw
yeah. But-
too in there, because you're gonna have some issues with this, where
Yeah.
people are gonna be like, oh, your dog barks.
Yeah, he
We're
does
doing
that.
bylaw.
And Mayor, and they cover that in here. It says persistently, that's why I said that's.
That's
the key.
persistently, yeah.
So that makes sense there. It just
So we
means-
need to have the wording the same in both areas.
I
Right,
think so.
yes.
Now,
My recommendation, we'll take it to second reading, and we'll go back and we'll
Make those
Massage it a bit.
adjustments and come back.
And we'll bring it back, we can do third reading, and then we can adopt it later in June. It's not a big deal.
Fair enough.
Okay. Any more discussion on that? All in favor? Could I have a motion to take it to second reading?
I'll make a motion that council give a second reading to noise control bylaw number 574-2021.
Seconder?
Second it?
Council Burridge. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. So that will come back to us at a future meeting. Thank you. Council reports. You have my written report there. It's a lot shorter than some of them have been. Seems like it's been busy, but it doesn't look like that. Any questions on my report? Okay, hearing none. Councilor Burridge?
My report's there, short but sweet. We did have the Art and Cultural Society meeting, and we're going ahead planning as if we can have a show, and if it has to be canceled, it has to be canceled, but the way things look now for the time frame, it might be a go.
That would be nice. Any questions for Councilor Burridge? Do you have a date in mind for that art and cultural?
It's the August long weekend, first, so whatever that is.
Okay,
Did I
thank
put a
you.
date in there? July 31st and August 1st. So it's a Saturday and a Sunday.
Okay, thank you. Councilor McAreavy?
I don't have a whole lot. Gold Country did have their elections this past week. I am sorry, I forgot my notes at home to tell you. There's a couple of new switcheroos, same people, just switcheroos and positions. So that's exciting, just to have some new faces in different positions. Other than that, we're still on hold with pretty much everything.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Park?
The only other meeting that I wasn't sharing with you guys was I went to a PAC meeting, Zoom, and that's gonna be the last meeting of the year. There's no talk about a PAC auction at all. That's gonna have to issue because they were uncertain what's gonna be going on in the fall, even though things seem to be look a little brighter in the last couple of days, but they did mention with the mayor, he had asked questions regarding that they had some equipment up there that they wanted to move and see if the village was interested in, et cetera, so that was brought up, even though it's not a PAC issue, was the I think the ask there was because if it does get moved, then we'll have to put something in its place. Of course, you need money to, and they're looking for money for that, so anyways, of course, it just came up as a discussion.
Yep.
And other than that, what else is going on with that? Yeah, that's it. Nothing.
Okay, thank you. See, the Museum Society had a work bee there today,
Mhm.
so they must be gearing up to open.
We're hoping in June, I think that was the plan.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
On what level, I have no idea, but maybe, yeah,
Yeah, I guess it'll depend on,
on whatever the rules, et cetera.
Yeah. any questions for Councillor Park? No? Councillor Rivet?
Just pretty much what's there. Well, and then I'll also add that there'll be an announcement coming out, the community forest, we did our grants, approval for grants.
Mm.
So, all I can say is everybody got something.
Good. Okay, could we receive those for information, please? We have no new business. List of outstanding council previous action items. 2 items on there, and they're both in progress. So, receive that for information. And calendar of events, none. So could I have a motion to proceed to in camera as per section, what section was that? 90.2B.
So moved.
Councillor Park, second.
Second it.
Councillor Burridge, all in favor?